My name is Adrian Rice. I'm a professor of mathematics at Randolph-Macon College in Virginia in the United States, and I'm one of the organizers of the program on modern history of mathematics. To briefly describe what the subject is, the history of mathematics is a multidisciplinary research area involving the scholarly analysis of the historical development of various mathematical areas, such as algebra, number theory, topology, etc., as well as the intersections with related disciplines, mathematical physics, computer science, and so on. We do this by studying not just the people themselves, the mathematicians who produced the mathematics, but also the means in which they communicated this mathematics, such as the printed texts, be they published or handwritten manuscripts as well. Covering a variety of periods. We have people working, of course, in the mathematics of antiquity, the Renaissance, 20th century, and so on, and across a variety of cultures as well, not just Western, of course, but Eastern, Indian, for example, or Chinese, and touching a variety of social, philosophical, political, and economic contexts.
I'm June Barrow-Green. I'm from the Open University and the London School of Economics, and I've been one of the program organisers for the Modern History of Mathematics program. The title of the program is Modern History of Mathematics, so it's not history of modern mathematics, although we have really been looking at mathematics in the late 19th, early 20th century, but it's been looking at doing history of mathematics from a modern perspective. And one of the things we've been able to do is to gather together groups of scholars who we know have been working on collective projects, such as there's been a group of people working on a collective biography of Oswald Veblen. Another group have been working on the history of the classification of finite simple groups, and another group working on the a translation of the big Brill-Noether report on algebraic function theory.
So why is a program on the modern history of mathematics particularly timely at this point? Well, the simple answer is that in the 30 plus years of the Institute's existence, the Isaac Newton Institute has never before held a research program on the history of mathematics. So just for that reason alone, this is an exciting time to be holding a program on the history of mathematics at the INI. But in addition to that, of course, it's a particularly exciting time because there's so much going on in the discipline right now. And we have just a fraction of that represented here at the moment. So, for example, we have research groups working on a variety of topics, including the mathematics of the American mathematician Oswald Veblen, the history of 20th century dynamical systems, the history of the classification of finite simple groups. A research group is working on a translation project for the famous report by Alexander Brill and Max Noether on algebraic functions from 1894. There's a group working on three-manifold theory in the 20th century, and a very exciting group working on the history of computing and data science. And there are various synergies and cross collaborations going on between members of these various research groups as well. In fact, that's the exciting part about this particular project and particular program, is that we're bringing together scholars not just from around the world to collaborate and pursue further research on the discipline, but we're also, of course, giving the modern history of mathematics greater exposure to the wider mathematical community at large.
So my name is Chris Hollings. I'm from the University of Oxford, and I'm part of the Modern History of Mathematics program. So I think that the challenge we have working in history of mathematics, so it's a broad comment sort of about the program, but the discipline more generally, is just linking up with other people. So this has been a nice opportunity and a challenge to talk to mathematicians about the history of mathematics, and also to talk to historians of science, of whom there are several in Cambridge, but not so much history of mathematics. So just making those connections, I think, has been, the challenge at the outset. But I think we've drawn people into activities and so on. I think we've made some connections, basically.
Well, perhaps the most obvious application of the history of mathematics is in the field of mathematics education. In fact, actually, in February, we had a very successful two-day meeting organized by Isabel Faulkner on the uses of the history of mathematics in higher education. But of course, the history of mathematics is not just useful for university mathematics students, but at all levels, primary, secondary school, etc. And this is for three reasons. First of all, the history of mathematics humanizes the disciplines, makes students realize that mathematics is the product of human endeavor, human personalities, human creativity. Secondly, it shows the student that the development of mathematics is not necessarily linear and not necessarily uniform, so it doesn't necessarily go at the same speed all the time. There can be whole periods where seemingly nothing is being done, and then suddenly things happen very, very quickly. Or the subject seems to be going in one direction, then takes a very, very sharp turn another way. And thirdly and finally, and perhaps most importantly, it reveals to students that even the greatest minds, on occasion, find the subject difficult and certainly are more than capable of making mistakes. And these factors really inspire and motivate students to study mathematics more effectively.
I've had a group of mathematicians working with me on dynamical systems, history of dynamical systems, and for me this has been a particularly beneficial environment because I've been able to work with mathematicians, which is quite often difficult for us as historians of maths to gather together mathematicians with the expertise, and that's why the INI has been just a wonderful environment in which to do this kind of research.
It's been really nice just to be among people here, because the historians of mathematics are quite few, taken overall. But it's been really nice to be in a position where you can just go and knock on the office door of somebody who would normally be on the other side of the planet. So that those kinds of interactions, and in relation to that, just bumping into people over coffee, the people that you're not specifically collaborating with, but they're there. And I've been involved in some of the specific workshops within the program, and that's sort of again nice to experience the INI on the two levels, the casual level and then the more specific one of actually being directly involved in something. And just being in Cambridge, I had a long list of archive things I wanted to look at several different colleges and the university library, and just to be able to stroll off after lunch and do that it has been really nice. So I'm sort of going away with a huge amount of material to work on in the future.
There have been various sort of special things for us, I think, because this is the first time that the INI has hosted historians of mathematics. And so we've done some perhaps slightly different things. And one of the things was we, with the help of the INI, we were able to bring a play on the female mathematician Emmy Noether. And we had two performances of the play at CMS, which was attended by, I think, over 200-300 people or something altogether. So that was really special. And within our own group, we also had organised an expedition to Bletchley Park, because that's relatively convenient to Cambridge. So, and again, particularly for our participants who live outside the UK who hadn't been to Bletchley Park, and we had our own guided tour of Bletchley Park. So that was really great too. So one other thing I'd like to comment on is that it's been particularly fantastic that we've been able to gather together so many early career researchers. And we're quite a thin field in terms of the number of people that do history of mathematics, particularly in our period, across the globe. And we've been able to bring together people from many different institutions. As I say, for these early career researchers to be able to build those bonds, which they will be able to take with them for the rest of their careers. And even if they're working on what would seem like quite different areas, there's a lot of generic elements to doing history of mathematics. So being able to exchange ideas in that respect And I mean, that has just been a joy, actually, to see them. And we've had talks by a lot of them. And I think it's a very unthreatening environment for them to be able to give seminars and things. And so that's been really special.